Hello, this is Max. Today, we will tell a story about a mad doctor's experiment on a man and what it led to. You can subscribe to the channel after watching. It helps us a lot in realizing the content. The movie begins by introducing Vera, a beautiful woman held hostage by the devious plastic surgeon Robert Ledgard. Robert, dedicated to developing burn-resistant and insect-repelling artificial skin, showcases his theories and gains support at a medical conference. Returning home, Robert monitors Vera but is alarmed to find her motionless, rushing to her room in horror. He saves her in the nick of time, and we learn that she has been captive for an extended period. Robert lives in a secluded mansion, and his confidant is none other than the maid Marilia, who knows of Vera's capture. Other servants remain unaware. Marilia provides Robert with a gallon of blood, extracted from a live animal, which he promptly takes to his lab for experiments. Eventually, he successfully extracts artificial skin and applies it to a dummy, ultimately transplanting it onto Vera. Through various tests, Robert confirms the skin's resistance to burns and mosquito bites. Days later, Robert presents his invention, the gal skin, at another press conference, proclaiming its efficacy in eradicating malaria. The head of the plastic surgeon community approaches him, seeking details about its creation. Robert reveals that gal is named after his late wife, who suffered severe burns. He further discloses that the skin is a result of combining genes from pigs and humans, resulting in a tougher and more resilient material. The chief scientist is taken aback upon learning about the illegal and immoral practices involved in Robert's research. He demands that Robert cease his activities and threatens to report him to the board if he refuses. In a state of depression, Robert enters Vera's room one night and informs her that he has completed all his experiments on her. Vera becomes hopeful and asks if she will be released, but Robert remains silent. Marilia suggests to Robert that he should dispose of Vera promptly, fearing that her resemblance to his late wife, Gal, could lead to complications. However, Robert dismisses her concerns and instructs Marilia to dismiss all the servants to ensure Vera's abduction remains a secret. The next day, after all the servants have left, a man dressed in a tiger costume arrives at the door. He introduces himself to Marilia as Zeka, her long-lost son whom she hasn't seen in over a decade. Initially hesitant, Marilia's maternal instincts kick in, and she allows him inside. However, while Zeka is having a meal, a news report on television reveals that he is one of the recently escaped bank robbers. Marilia confronts him about it, and he admits to his crimes, stating that it is his means of survival. Nevertheless, he pleads with Marilia to let him stay for a few days, claiming to have nowhere else to go. During their conversation, Zeka notices Vera on the surveillance monitor and becomes captivated by her appearance. He inquires about her whereabouts but receives no response. Desperate to find her, Zeka restrains his mother in a chair and begins searching for Vera. Eventually, he discovers her room and forcefully approaches her. Strangely, as he engages in his actions, he expresses surprise at seeing her alive, realizing her resemblance to Robert's deceased wife, Gal. At that moment, Robert returns home and finds Marilia bound to the chair. Upon reviewing the surveillance footage, he witnesses Vera being assaulted by the intruder. Filled with rage, he quickly retrieves a gun and rushes to the room, swiftly eliminating Zeka. Afterward, Robert holds Vera tightly, vowing never to let her leave his side again. While cleaning the blood-stained sheets, Marilia confides in Vera, revealing that Zeka and Robert were brothers, a secret known only to her. Zeka was born to a construction worker, while Robert's father was a wealthy businessman whom Marilia had worked for. Consequently, Marilia is Robert's biological mother, unbeknownst to him. That night, Vera questions Marilia about Zeka's familiarity with her. Marilia explains that Zeka mistook Vera for Robert's wife, Gal, who bore an uncanny resemblance to her. She continues by recounting the divergent upbringings of the two brothers. Robert grew up in privilege and became a successful doctor, while Zeka endured a life on the streets. ultimately turning to a life of crime. Marilia discloses that Robert and Gal had a daughter named Norma, and the family experienced happiness until the arrival of Zeka, whom Marilia allowed to stay at their farmhouse. Upon seeing Gal, Zeka and she felt an immediate connection. They began meeting in secret, eventually falling in love. One day, they decided to flee in a car, attempting to escape Robert. However, their journey was cut short by a fatal accident. Zeka fled the scene, leaving Gal behind in the burning vehicle. When Robert arrived, Gal was left in a vegetative state with severe facial injuries. Despite the circumstances, Robert never lost hope and cared for Gal diligently. He even removed all mirrors from the house to spare her from the sight of her disfigured face. Months passed, and Gal made a remarkable recovery, but her once beautiful face could not be fully restored. One day, she accidentally caught a glimpse of her reflection in a window pane, leading to profound despair. Overwhelmed by her altered appearance, she jumped out of the window, tragically ending her life. Unfortunately, Norma witnessed the lifeless body of her mother, leaving her traumatized. A few days later, Norma followed suit and also committed suicide. In the present tense, Vera and Robert have intercourse. Afterward, they embrace and drift off to sleep. The movie then shifts back 6 years, when Norma is still grappling with the trauma of her mother's death. One evening, Robert and Norma attend a crowded party, and suddenly, Norma mysteriously disappears. Robert embarks on a search for Norma and encounters a hurried passerby. Later, he discovers Norma unconscious near a tree trunk. When he awakens her, she reacts with screams and accuses him of abuse. In the present, Robert awakens from a recurring nightmare related to this incident. Meanwhile, Vera dreams about a young man named Vicente, an employee at his mother's boutique store. Vicente has feelings for Christina, another employee who identifies as a lesbian. They attend the same party mentioned in Robert's vision, where Vicente coincidentally meets Norma, and they quickly become friends. They make love in the garden, but suddenly Norma experiences an anxiety attack, which leads to screaming and biting. Alarmed, Vicente strikes her to quiet her down before hastily leaving the scene. A week later, Vicente is seen riding his motorcycle through the woods, unknowingly followed by Robert, who seeks revenge. Robert causes Vicente to crash his motorcycle and forcefully takes him to a basement room. Subsequently, authorities inform Vicente's mother that his destroyed motorcycle was found near a cliff, indicating a tragic fall. The following day, Robert visits a mental hospital where his daughter, Norma, is a patient. However, she refuses to acknowledge him as her father and locks herself in a closet. Norma has developed a fear of men and only cooperates with female nurses. In another location, Robert keeps Vicente chained, depriving him of food and water, subjecting him to abuse. Some days later, Norma passes away, leaving Robert seeking solace in his work. He prepares Vicente for a new experiment, shaving him and taking him to the operating theater. Other doctors are invited, and a fabricated consent statement is presented for vaginoplasty on Vicente. This reveals Robert's grand plan to transform Vicente into a female. After a lengthy surgery, Vicente wakes up to the shocking realization that he is no longer male, causing him to panic. He is relocated to a better room, where Robert provides him with care, medicine, and necessary devices to ensure proper development of his new sexual organs. Eventually, Robert confesses that he abducted Vicente in response to what he did to his daughter, instilling fear in Vicente, who reluctantly complies with the mad doctor's demands. Vera hopes for her eventual release from captivity, but years pass, and she remains imprisoned, having fully transitioned into a female. Vicente is revealed to be Vera's true identity. Returning to the present, Marilia is displeased with Vera's freedom to roam the house and accompany Robert on shopping trips. Fearful of potential dangers, Marilia warns Robert against allowing Vera too much freedom, but he disregards her concerns. Later, a colleague visits Robert's home, presenting a newspaper article featuring Vicente's photo. The colleague recalls Robert performing vaginoplasty on Vicente and accuses Robert of lying about Vicente's consent. However, Vera intervenes, defending Robert and claiming to have willingly consented to the surgery, desiring to become female. After the colleague departs, Robert expresses gratitude to Vera for saving the situation. That night, as they engage in intercourse, Vera pretends to go downstairs to retrieve lubricating cream, but secretly retrieves a gun from a drawer and conceals it in her bag. Gathering her courage, she confronts Robert, revealing her feigned love for him. Robert is left speechless, and before he can respond, Vera shoots him, resulting in his death. Startled by the sound, Marilia rushes to the scene but meets the same fate as her boss. In the final scene, Vera visits her mother's boutique shop, where she encounters her former crush, Christina. They engage in conversation, and Vera unveils the truth of her abduction and forced transformation into a female. To substantiate her claims, she presents a dress from 6 years earlier, proving her identity as Vicente. Overwhelmed by the revelation, Christina breaks down in tears. The movie concludes as Vera finally reunites with her mother, disclosing her true identity as the lost son, Vicente. So, what do you think of this movie? Write your thoughts in the comments under the video, and also do not forget to put a like and subscribe to the channel. Goodbye.